Hola a todos. Hi everyone, how are you? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And welcome to all of you to the month of Cancer, the last month of our path of the I Am. So we begin with our mind week of our month of Cancer. For all the new people that is watching these videos from now, I remind you, as always, that our month of Cancer begins today, because we are not following the calendars, the astrological calendars. We are not following the sidereal astrology, neither the tropical astrology. We are following the Atlantean calendar, which is based into the rising of star Sirius in the horizon. From that day is that we start to take the whole year. So that's why for us today begins Cancer, which is not related specifically with the constellation, is related to the concepts that we live during this period of time on Earth. So once clarified this, let's begin. As a reminder, during this whole month, we will work with the Holy Sacred Family, the Holy Trinity of the mind, the universal mind, which is subconscious, unconscious, and conscious. The first week of the mind, we will go through the first concept, which is the subconscious. So everything will be according to the subconscious. The next week will be, which is for the emotional, we will be inside the aspects of the unconscious. And the third week and last one of the physical, we will be working with the conscious. To start with this next 30 days of Cancer, let's begin with explaining a little bit of what is Cancer, what is the energy of Cancer. First of all, let's go through the name. Why do we call it Cancer? Cancer is from Latin, and the name in Latin is cancrum, cancaris, so also canker, and it comes from the Indo-European word car, which means something to protect, a shield, to something strong, hard, that protects. Cancer basically means crab. So how do we define a crab? Basically by something that is really soft inside, very weak, that is covered with something really hard to protect the inside. Also, the movement of the crab as the crab is walking reminds us also about something related to the psychology of Cancer, which is the walking side by side and backwards. So this means that walking side by side is, we can say that is related to the ones that has a side, to the people that has with it, like the family as a group. And walking backwards means that in the psychological idea of this would be that is a person or a concept that sees everything from the point of view of past, like melancholy, and of what would have been, thinking what would have been if. this kind of ideas, nostalgics. And of course, these crabs has very big, how to say this? I don't know the name in English, like these things. Um, so what they do with this is to defend. They defend uh, the 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 weak. They defend the ones claws. Thank you. The claws. So they defend the ones that are around the known ones, the ones that they need to protect, the most soft and weak, sensitive bonds that the person has. So it's related to the love between the closest ones and so on. So, in the opposite to Pisces, which is the unconditional love for everyone, Cancer would be the the love related to those to whom that person knows, like protective to the ones that are in the family, the most closest one. So of course that Cancer is one of the signs that is much more possessive and jealous from all the signs, um, regarding those who that person loves. So the reason why we close this month with Cancer is, of course, because we are setting our intention to work for those who we know, for Mother Nature, for every living being in this planet that is related to us as a whole family, um, and to recognize the love for all the things that are around and close to us. Because in this spiritual path, we usually look for love into other dimensions, look for love into other planets. But one of the things that we have to embody for our work of consciousness is our love for those who are here, for the people of this planet, for the animals in this planet, for the nature here in this planet, inside this mother that we call Earth, that is protecting us. So this month is basically dedicated to the love of these kids, of these children, throughout the subconscious, unconscious, and conscious of that lives within this big mother that we call Earth. So of course that Cancer is a sign of water, and is the one that you can really tell it's water, because Cancer express its emotions very well. Remember that from the very beginning, most of the cultures were related to water, calling it like a way to communicate with the divine, as something as that embodies the divine. And so basically the water is a way to connect to the divinity, and for Cancer it's easier to relate with the inner water, which are the emotions. So that's why usually people say, we say Cancer is about crying. It's easier for the Cancer people to cry about anything. So this is why the mind of Cancer is much more related to the different kinds of water. And this is why through the Mind Week, we will go to different topics related to the different bodies of water. And this is why we begin today with mist. So for me, it's difficult sometimes to communicate from the cancer point of view, because I don't have actually much water in my astrological chart, basically nothing. So the only thing in cancer that I have is Mercury. This is why my cancer is related to the communication. It's related to explain things like to kids, to like a mother. So that's why I guess that I'm easily, for me it's much more easier to explain and to have patience when I uh, explain things. Yes. So I think that yes, the only time you saw me crying and being really sad was in January, and it was the first time in a long time too. So not easily crying myself. But as you have seen, I am trying to embody the information that we are working with every month. So I don't know how it's going to be this month, if I'm gonna cry or not, but I started very weird. I am like very like weird right now. So the reason why I'm weird, for sure you will know if you read the post, because the post today, it was much more than just an explanation. I had no idea what I was writing about until I found myself inside a therapy. I was like, I felt like I was in the therapy with a psychiatrist, and with a psychiatrist called Am, and for me was very very heavy, very deep, because I didn't expect it. What I wrote for me was like actually a therapy. I feel like very nauseous, and trying to process. My cells are trying to understand things. And well, it was a very public therapy, of course, because I it's public, but those kind of things usually should be private, not being read by thousands of people. But anyway, that's why I feel like so weird right now. I think that I I believe that this month will be kind of like this. The next days will be like that. Also writing like in a therapy in such a way. Um, and even if I start to write it in that way, um, with very personal things, I would like to recommend you to not to read the post as if you are reading about my life, like a kind of an entertainment, but try to read with your own. Maybe your own life is different, but try to find the tools, the things that might can help you to integrate. So today, basically, I wanted to share with you the idea of mist, which is related with the concept of confusion. So first of all, let's go to understand what is the mist. And mist is basically a cloud. We usually name these expressions like the clouds. And clouds and mist are basically condensation. Is the change of the molecular composition of water. Is one of the most subtle compositions of water besides the humidity. And clouds are basically this product of the these molecules transforming itself by condensation. So the clouds condensate by the temperatures in the atmosphere, and mist condensate themselves by the wet floor. So it's produced in the ground. So basically, they are clouds, but one of them, the clouds, are produced by the condensation in the atmosphere, and the other one in the ground, the mist. Okay, so what is mist? What is mist? Remember that the reason why we have clouds and mist is because condensation. So, as I said, this condensation is basically how the molecules of water condensate, depending on the um, temperature of the environment. So remember that whenever is heat is an environment is hot, the molecules spread, they vibrate and spread. But when it starts to get colder, they condensate. The word condense means all the things get much more dense. So basically, it's like density. So condensation is the ability of something to become much more dense. So all together. So the thing is that when the heat of the ground or the heat of the atmosphere, they spread these molecules, we call it humidity. The humidity is the water that is levitating there in the air because it's spreading. But when the cold arrives, they start to condensate again. So humidity is like the most wider. Then we have the mist and the clouds, that it's a condensation of the humidity. And then when they got much more condensed, they are drops of water. They create rain, the water. So this is why it rains from the clouds. It's not because water is in the clouds, it's because the clouds are water. It seems silly to explain this, but I guess that some people didn't know about this for sure, because I've seen, I was explaining in Spanish that I've heard once the last president of Spain saying the sentence, this is a thing, this is a thing that is not like when it rains from the skies that nobody knows how. That was a quote of the president of Spain once. So I thought that was so funny. Well, as I said, we actually know why it rains, and it's not because of there's water falling from the clouds. It's because the clouds are basically water condensating. And one of the reasons why it's white, why we cannot see throughout the clouds or the mist, is basically because the light particles that hit and reflect the water, they spread into all the colors that we see as white. Okay, so it goes through the water and spreads the rays, all the rays into white. And remember that the oxygen, the air, the oxygen that is in the air, the hydrogen that is in the air, they reflect the light from the drops of water. So that's why the light can escape, because there are so many particles and they start to reflect so much in between the particles of water in the environment, that we see all white, that we cannot see anything behind, because the light is like trapped, heating all the particles of water, the molecules of water and air. That's why we see the clouds as white. So once we understood this scientific part, let's try to understand the psychological part of what the clouds and what the mist can affect on us. So what is the psychological point of view of the clouds? Clouds are in the atmosphere, so they have different layers in the atmosphere. So they are above our heads, so they divide our point of view from earth, from heaven. So we can understand that we can all relate that we usually project the idea of divinity in the skies, because throughout thousands of years, we have been a species that were projecting the divinity into the skies. We were projecting the image of God into the sun and the light of the sun, the divinity in the reflection of the moon. We organized our life according to the cycles of the light of the moon. We were following the stars, so we kind of picture the divinity, the connection with the spiritual world, with the transcendental realities, other dimensions, the divinity, God, and everything up there in the skies. And the clouds are kind of like the point with all that. So what would happen when a cloud goes in between the sun and us? So we see shadows. So we are afraid of shadows. So when the clouds cover the entire skies, we lose the connection with the divinity, with the divine. We lose the connection with our idea of the cosmos, of the spiritual realms. We lose the idea of the time, because we don't know where is the sun, so we don't know how to calculate how much time has happened. Also, when it's rainy, we kind of go inside and we want to be protected. Sometimes come storms that destroy things and makes us scared with lightnings. And so clouds basically are a middle point in between the divinity and us. So clouds are also a symbol that can distort the connection between the divinity and us. Of course, we have to be aware that there is no clouds as equal in every part of the planet. So we have upon or below the tropics, we have much more clouds, much more condensation because of the cold of the poles. So in those countries, you have much more cloudy days with rain and mist and all these kind of things. So those cultures live without the connection to the sun as the others do. So this is why during a long period of time, these people goes much more inside. They feel much protected. They feel much more protected with the clouds. They feel much in silence, like they don't communicate much. They are just much more going within and these kind of things in those cultures. As for the countries or territories that are in between the tropics, which is much more sunny days, for sure they feel very depressed when they see clouds, when it's all covered. They cannot stand that, and they also, because of there's much more light and so on, they communicate much and they talk one over the other and so on. Also, regarding the beliefs, the countries that doesn't have much connection with the sun, so it's much more cloudy and so on, they tend to develop a much more deeper relationship with themselves, um, reading, learning about many things, spending a lot of time meditating. So this is why in the cold countries usually they grow inside much more than in the hot countries, that they um, have much more connection with the sun, so they can project much more their life to a divinity, to one that is divine. So that's why they are much more related to God, a religion. This talking about the upper part. So what happened with mist, with the fog? Mist is different from what the clouds does, with the connection to something that is intangible, something that you cannot relate to, because it's magical up there. But mist is basically the one that disconnect ourselves from what is around, from our worldly reality. Something that doesn't allow us to see what is right in front, behind, or aside of us. The world, the reality that we can relate with, we cannot see it. So mist is something that disconnects us from, as I was saying, something that just disconnects us um, from our reality, from what is there. So all of us are surrounded by this mist, and this mist is basically what we call the subconscious. So we all live this mist inside of us. We all have that, and we call it confusion. Confusion is basically mental concept of what chemically we call condensation. Condensation was physically to put all the different things condensed all together in a density. So confusion is the fusion, which is to melt two different things, but many of them. That's why confusion, because it's a conjunction of things that are founding, like they fuse to one another. The confusion is basically so many things that we cannot connect, and this is why we can relate the mist with the subconscious. The subconscious is like this huge mist where all the concepts in our life are making fusion all together. And we can relate this with the mist because when we receive the clarity, the light of the sun in different wavelengths, we can see colors. We can see the 7 colors of the rainbow. But when these 7 colors heat the molecules of water, and they are not just falling, but they are floating, levitating all around, making a mess. So all the colors of the rainbow, all these wavelengths, start to hit one another, and they all make a fusion, creating the white, the color white. This is why we see a white cloud, white fog, all the colors are mixed, are condensed, and that brings confusion. So, as a summary, then, in the physical world, we say condensation. In the psychological world, we say confusion, but it's the same thing. In the confusion, the particles get together, so when the light comes from the seven colors of the rainbow, they get mixed and they create the color white. That's why we have clouds and mist as white. And when you go to confusion, what do we have? The seven rays of information, the seven rays, the chakras, the colors of the knowledge coming inside of you, and they mix together. You don't know how to organize them, so you have your mind in blank. So it's basically the same, within and outside. So why this happened? This happened by condensation, which is basically not processing one thing that we are taking in one. I guess that the greatest example that we can give now of condensation has been this whole year. This whole year, non-stop, no Saturday night free, nothing. We have been receiving information every day from different topics, and we have no time to rest to process one of them. So arrives this moment that we have no clue, no idea where are we, if we spoke about something or not, in which month we explained this. It's all so much and too many things that I have to handle that actually we start to get confused about many things because we don't get the time to process that information. But there is a goal in all this. The goal of all this path is that we can reach the last day of all this year with our mind in blank. So the reason why we are willing to find our mind in blank is because the real knowledge, the everything that we are, is inside the subconscious, and the subconscious doesn't have logics. Subconscious is everything all mixed. So it's impossible to try to understand it. It's impossible to put rules in the subconscious. The only way in which you can really access the subconscious is by feeling it. Not just to understand it with logics. This is why what we are doing during this whole year is to take the data to put it into the subconscious. So eventually when we reach to the blank, we can find out all the data that we need by feeling it. This is the importance of mist, because it's not just the mist telling us that we are not paying attention to the environment, to the things that we have around, that we cannot see them. It's hidden by the mist. But also the mist is there to let us know that if we don't see it, it's because there is something much more greater that is around us. And maybe what we are supposed to do is to stop looking for it and start to feel it. And this is why, or how we activate the attribute for this whole month, which is I feel. This week we changed vibration. The vibration for today is Ra. The dream for today is I am the cosmic dreamer.